Hi everyone, it's alenajingle again, back with video number 15 in the series I've been doing. This series is less popular alternatives to the top 100 boy names of the year 2014, and in this video I'm going to be talking about names 30 through 26. And at number 30 in the year 2014 it was the name Christopher. Christopher is an English form of the name Christophorus, which means bearing God. This is a name that has been popular for so many years that there are just obviously tons and tons and tons of associations with it. Right now, in particular, there are several blonde-haired, blue-eyed, buff actors with this name. There's actor Chris Pine, Chris Evans, Chris Pratt, Chris Hemsworth. They just go on and on. This name is also associated with Christopher Columbus. Also, Christopher Lloyd is the name of the actor who played the Doc or Professor in the Back to the Future movies. Actor Christopher Lee is the actor who played Sauron in the Lord of the Rings movies. Also, actor Christopher Maloney is from the show Law & Order SVU. Also, actor Christopher Walken. I could go on and on and on. This name is also really associated with Christopher Robin from Winnie the Pooh. This name was actually in the top 10 boy names from 1967 through 2009. It was actually number 2 many of those years as well. It has been in the top 100 boy names since 1949 and was always been in the top 400 boy names in the US. So it is an insanely popular name, and yeah, if you're looking for an unusual name, definitely do not look at Christopher. My first Christopher alternative I have is Gulliver. Gulliver is extremely strongly associated with Gulliver's Travels. In that book, the main character is named Lemuel Gulliver. Lemuel is one of my favorite names for why I love that name, but I think Gulliver is super, super cute. Actor Gary Oldman has a son named Gulliver, and I think that someone that likes Christopher might like Gulliver because they have the same syllable pattern, the 3 syllables ending in the ER going on, and they're both strongly associated with children's books as well. My next Christopher alternative I have is Cristobal. Cristobal is the Spanish form of Christopher, which again means bearing Christ. I actually graduated with a boy with this name, and he went by Tobal. Everybody called him Tobal, and he was a really, really positive association for me anyway. Christopher Columbus that I mentioned earlier was actually born Cristobal Colon. Christopher Columbus is the English form of that Spanish name. Cristobal was in and out of the top 1,000 boy names from the years 1975 through 2007, but has not been since then. And I think that someone that likes Christopher might like Cristobal because of course it has the same meaning and origin, and Cristobal could easily honor a Christopher as well. And my last Christopher alternative I have is Crispin. Crispin is an English form of the name Crispinius, which means curly-haired. I think most will associate the name Crispin with actor Crispin Glover. Otherwise, this name is extremely unpopular in the US, but it's so accessible and fits in really well with the whole 2-syllable ending in N trend. And I think that someone that likes Christopher might like Crispin for that Chris nickname option. And I think that Crispin can honor a Christopher as well. And at number 29 in the year 2014 was the name Dylan with this spelling. This is a Welsh name that means great tide. This name is associated with poet Dylan Thomas and of course with singer Bob Dylan. Dylan O'Brien and Dylan Minnette are 2 actors that are young and currently rising very quickly in their fame. And then of course Dylan McDermott is an adult actor, and definitely where I first would have seen the name Dylan. Dylan is unfortunately one of those names for me where I see it in most classrooms and they tend to be the naughty kids in the classroom, so it's not the best name for me, but I do think it makes a great middle name. It has been the top 100 boy names since 1990 and first entered the top 1,000 in the 60s. And I do think it's getting dated. Once again, I think that it would be a great middle name for a boy born in 2015. My first Dylan alternative I have is Philin. This is a Greek name that means leaf, and supermodel Dutzen Kroos has a son named Philin Joy, first and middle. I think that is an absolutely brilliant name. She's a total namer based off of that name. Dylan has never been in the top 1,000 boy names in the US, but I think this name totally needs to be discovered, and of course it'll make a great Dylan alternative because they have a similar rhyming sound. And my next Dylan alternative I have is Dallas. This is an English name meaning Valley House. This is of course the name of a big city in Texas, and I have actually met a couple little Dallases, and I actually find it really refreshing on a little boy. I see it used on girls as well. I do personally definitely prefer this on boys. And there is an actor named Dallas Roberts from the show Good Wife. This name is actually ranked all the way up at 268 in 2014, so it definitely is being used and is rising right now. And I was really shocked to see this has always been the top 500 boy names in the US because I've only met a couple of Dallases and they've both been little. I think Dallas is a really, really handsome name, and I would totally love to see this used more often. And I think that someone who likes Dylan might like Dallas because they're both two-syllable names that start with a D and have an L in the middle. And my last Dylan alternative I have is Declan. This is an Irish name meaning man of prayer, really sweet meaning. Declan was the first name of singer Elvis Costello. Declan Porter is an actor from the show Revenge, and I have been seeing little Declans pop up all over the place. It's not in the top 100 yet though. This was ranked at 122 in 2014 and has been in the top 1000 since 1998. I think Declan is just a gorgeous, strong name. I totally get why people are using it, and I would use it quick before it gets super popular. It's just a wonderful name, and I think someone who likes Dylan might like Declan since they're both two-syllable D names that end with a lun sound. And number 28 in the year 2014 was the name Luke. This is an English name that means light, wonderful meaning. This is a name that has been popular for a long time, so of course there are, once again, lots of associations with it. There's actor Luke Wilson, actor Luke Evans, who's playing Gaston in the new live-action movie version of Beauty and the Beast, singer Luke Bryan. A lot of people, when you hear the name Luke, will think Luke, I am your father, especially with Star Wars being so huge right now with the new movie coming out. Because of course a biblical name is the name of one of the books in the Bible, and it's actually the name of one of the Gospels in the New Testament. My husband has a cousin whose middle name is Luke, and he's totally how I picture a Luke. I really love the idea of Luke as a middle name. This has been in the top 100 boy names since 1992. It is rising in popularity. It's always been in the top 1,000 boy names in the US. And for good reason. It's a really strong, accessible name. My first Luke alternative I have is Luca. Luca is an Italian form of Lucius, which means light again. This is a major celebrity baby name. Tons and tons and tons of celebrities have used this on their babies, and some have even used it on their little girls, which is crazy because this is all boy to me. There's an actor named Luca Calvani from the show Bold and Beautiful, and this name was ranked at 185 in 2014 and first entered the top 1,000 boy names in the year 2000 at number 626. So it went from not being in it to just hopping right in there all the way up in the 600s. I think someone that likes Luke might like Luca because they have the same meaning and origin, and Luke could be a nickname for Luca. My next Luke alternative I have is Lucan. Lucan is an English form of Lucanus, which means light again. Lucan is the name of a Roman poet whose full name was Maximus Annaeus Lucanus, and he just went by Lucan, of course. This name has never been in the top 1,000 boy names in the US, and I think it's super, super, super accessible in 2015. And I think that someone that likes Luke might like Lucan because they have the same meaning and origin, and Luke again could be a nickname for Lucan. And my last alternative for Luke is Luke with this spelling. This is the French form of Luke that of course again means light. And this would be great for those people that just cannot give up the idea of using Luke. But this spelling is still a very, very legitimate, strong name, but way underused in comparison. It's not even in the top 1,000 boy names right now. Name in France is often used paired with other names such as Jean-Luc. And this was only ever in the top 1,000 boy names 1 year in the US in the year 2002 at number 933. So it is extremely unpopular in the US. And again, I think that someone that likes Luke might like Luke with this spelling because it's so much less used in the US. Number 27 in the year 2014 was the name Carter. This is an English name that means cart driver. I associate this with actor Carter Jenkins. There's also famous composer Carter Burwell, who composed the music from the Twilight movies. This is, of course, a really common surname as well, and I associate it with Helena Bonham Carter, the actress. I think a lot of people think of the name Carter when they're trying to think of a name for their child, too, because of the baby and children's clothing store called Carter's. There is a presidential name in the form of the 39th President of the U.S., President Jimmy Carter, and this name is also associated with country singer June Carter Cash, the wife of Johnny Cash. The name is also associated with brothers Aaron Carter and Nick Carter. Nick Carter was, of course, from the Backstreet Boys. This name has been in the top 100 boy names since 1994 and has always been in the top 1,000 boy names in the U.S. This is a name I do see in most classrooms again, and I've unfortunately met so many Carters that I've met some not great Carters, so this name is very, very overused for me. I do see it a lot. First Carter alternative I have is Author. Author is an English name that of course means writer. This name was actually in the top 1,000 boy names in the U.S. from the years 1880 through the year 1900, and it was all the way up at 558 in one of those years as well. So once upon a time it was being used as a name quite a bit in the US. I think this name would be super, super accessible because it sounds really similar to Arthur, which is rising popularity right now. And also, of course, occupational names are super in. And I do like the name Author as an occupational name. I don't tend to like occupational names, but I like Author because it is super relatable to a lot of people. There are a lot of people that would love to be authors or have someone that they love who is an author, so we can honor either of those. Of course, I think that someone who likes Carter might like author because they have a similar sound and are both occupational names. My next Carter alternative I have is carpenter. Carpenter is an English name that means someone who builds, usually with wood and typically houses. This name is extremely strongly associated with the Carpenters, the singing group from the 60s and 70s. I actually knew someone whose first and last name was Parish Carpenter, which I thought was kind of funny because it just sounds like someone who builds a church. I was really excited to see this name brought up in a baby name group that I'm part of on Facebook the other day, and I thought I cannot wait till I get this video made and put out. I think that someone who likes Carter might like Carpenter because they have a similar sound. They're both occupational names, and Carter could actually just be a nickname for Carpenter as well. And my last Carter alternative I have is Carlton. Carlton is an English name that means Carl's Town. This name makes me smile because I think of Carlton Banks from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and he's kind of on everyone's radar right now since he recently won Dancing with the Stars. His name was in the top 1,000 boy names in the US up through the year 2005. It has not been since then, and I think that someone who likes Carter might like Carlton because they have a similar beginning sound, and I think Carlton is just super, super adorable. This would also be a great way to honor a Carl or a Carla or a Charles in your family. And my last name for this video at number 26 was the name John. John is an English form of the name Johannes, which is a Hebrew name that means God is gracious. This is another one of those names that has been popularly used for so long that you can't even hardly begin to list all the associations with it. But of course, I think of John the Baptist from the Bible. There was also James and John, the sons of Zebedee, who are two of the apostles in the Bible as well. This name has always been in the top 30 boy names in the US. The very lowest it ever was 2012, where it was ranked at number 28, and it was actually in the top 10 boy names all the way up through 1986. I think this name is extremely handsome, but very, very overused. My first John alternative I have is Jan. Jan is a Slavic form of John, which of course means God is gracious. This name can also be pronounced Jan. However, in the US, the Jan pronunciation is typically used for girls. There was a popular 70s and 80s actor named Jan Michael Vincent, and Jan Ackerman is a guitarist from the band Focus. This name was in the top 1,000 boy names from the years 1931 through 2008 and has not been since then. It was actually all the way up at number 247 in the year 1944 too. I think that someone who likes John might like Jan because they have a similar sound, shared meaning and origin, and of course Jan can easily honor a John. Next John alternative I have is Hans. This is the form of John for many, many European countries, which again means God is gracious. I really strongly associate this with Hans Christian Andersen, the fairy tale writer. I also associate it with Hans Zimmer, who's a composer. He wrote the music for The Prince of Egypt. Albert Einstein's son's name was Hans Albert Einstein. I think it's a really handsome name. This is unfortunately associated with the bad guy from Frozen right now too. However, I think that people are so into Frozen that it might not matter whose name you use from it. So that might actually up the cool factor for it. This name was always in the top 1,000 boy names up through 1999 and has not been since then. And I think that someone that likes John might like Hans because they have the same meaning and origin. And again, Hans could honor a John. And my last John alternative I have is Joel. Joel is a Hebrew name that means the Lord is God. It's the name of an Old Testament prophet and of course one of the books in the Old Testament in the Bible. I really strongly associate this with Billy Joel. I love a ton of his music, and actor Haley Joel Osment. My husband's cousin that I mentioned whose middle name is Luke, he has a brother whose middle name is Joel, so I really strongly associate Luke and Joel with both of them. His name is currently ranked at 154 and was actually in the top 100 boy names from the years 1967 through 1992 and has always been within the top 400 boy names in the US. I think that someone who likes John might like Joel since they're both 4 letters long, they're both one syllable, both biblical, and they both start with J-O. Thanks again for watching this video. I'm 3/4 of the way done with the boy names. I'm so excited, and I will hopefully have the next video out soon. Please let me know what your favorites of the alternatives I listed were and any others that I didn't mention, and have a great day.